What's going on, guys? Fusion here, and today I'm finally going to be introducing you guys to the Back-Porch Garden. But first, we actually need to prepare the plants for transplant. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so what you're looking at here is all of the plants that I had to overwinter this year. These peppers here, I actually dug them out of the ground and I put them in these pots. That plant right there is a plant from Puerto Rico, so I doubt it would have survived the winter. And that one back there in the back is actually a cherry tree. We even have a fig right here that started producing already. Look at that. So clearly, all of this stuff is ready to go outside. But before we take any of these plants out there, first, we're gonna have to do a little bit of prep work to these tomatoes right here. Alright, so the first thing we gotta do is take some snips, take you something to disinfect them. I like to use Lysol. Dry them off, and once you have these disinfected, all you wanna do is, you wanna come in here and you wanna remove all of the foliage from the bottom of the plant. See, because you don't want these branches here to get long and with the weight of the fruit start sagging down and touching the soil, because that's gonna create a bridge for problems to climb up to your plant. So to avoid that, we go ahead and cut that indoors before we even get this plant outside. Oh, and here's another thing. When you make this cut, you're creating an open wound and you're basically giving problems a very easy access point to the plant. And tomatoes, they have this ability to be able to create roots anywhere along their stem. So what I like to do is, I like to plant my tomatoes deeper. But if I were to go ahead and do that now, without giving it time for this to heal, I'm gonna end up burying this open wound underground, and that's gonna be a big problem. So I say that to say this. You wanna come in here and you wanna clear off this bottom foliage, yes, but you don't wanna do it right before you plant your plants. And here in just a second, we're about to take these plants outside and I'm gonna show you guys how I acclimate them to the sun. But before we do, let me go ahead and remove all this bottom foliage. And I'm also gonna go through and find any flowers and remove those too. Because as soon as the plant transplants, I wanted to start focusing on developing roots and developing more foliage instead of trying to spend this energy on making fruit. Anyway, let me go ahead and go through here, clean these plants up, and I'll put you guys back in here in just a second. All right, well, that's about as much as they need. So let me go ahead and give them a little bit of water and then we'll take them outside. Check it out, guys. I finally finished setting everything up on the table and we have a few down here on the ground too. But let me very quickly explain to you guys why it is that I have it set up this way. If we look over here, we actually have east. That's east. The sun rises up in the east. And as the sun goes over and past these trees, it's going to blast those plants with sunlight over and over and over and over until the sun reaches about this point here in the sky, which then is going to cast a shade onto these plants because of the roof of the porch. I don't know if you guys just heard that, but if I die, at least it's on camera. Anyway, they have shade, and the reason why that's beneficial is because you only want to expose your plants to a couple of hours of sunlight to get them acclimated to it. And once you do that for a couple of days, what I do, I take them off of the table and I put them down here. So in the afternoon, they are no longer being protected by the shadow that this cast is. But it's gonna be a week for me, but just a couple of seconds for you guys, and I'll put you guys right back in here to finally transplant these things out to the Back-Porch Garden. Hey guys, it's been 1 week since we started acclimating these plants to the sun. As you can see, the sun is freaking beaming today. But the plants are finally ready to go into their forever homes. But before they do, let me give you guys a little tour of the Back-Porch Garden. Alright, so here you can see an overview of the Back-Porch Garden. As you can see, the porch is sitting about 3 feet away from the ground, which is really good for pests. And there's actually these skinny pieces of wood in between. And I actually use that to trellis my grapevines. Then if we come around this way to the stairs, oh, but before we go up, this entire system is being irrigated by this irrigation system right here coming off the hose. I have these water lines running underneath the porch, and then they come around this way where they're distributed 4 ways right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so we go up these stairs here to the porch now. You can see we have a bunch of pots everywhere. These ones in the middle, that over there, these 2 right here, and a few others that are scattered about that don't have anything in them. That's the ones that we're gonna be filling up today. Here, there's a few grapevines. Each one of these grapes is a different kind of grape. Over here, we have an apple tree, another grapevine over there, another apple tree right there, a peach tree, a grapevine, an apple tree, and finally some pecans, or pecans like some people like to call them. I call them pecans. Okay, so the meat and potatoes, all of this stuff has to get transplanted out into pots, yes, but before we do, these plants actually spent their entire winter back here on this porch. And as you can see, they finally started to wake up for the spring, but that also means that they're extremely hungry. So what we're gonna do first is I'm gonna show you guys how I feed one of my grapes and one of my apples, and that should show you guys how I feed the rest of my plants. Okay, so if we look at this grapevine here, you're gonna notice that there's actually some stuff growing on top of the pot. This is actually my cover crop that I grew over the winter, because if there's nothing in there to drink up that water, this vine is not gonna have any foliage during the winter, so that pot is gonna stay soggy for longer. And because of that, you could actually have some problems in the root with root rot and things like that. So anyway, what I like to do now in the spring is I like to come in here and kind of chop it back a little bit. Let me go ahead and remove my irrigation first. So I take about a third away. Just go through here and chop it off. And I don't waste this stuff. I'm gonna take a bucket and I'm gonna stick it in there. Then we can come in here and dig a little bit from the surface. Because if you notice, this stuff is really hard to dig through because of all the roots that built up over time. Don't worry too much about it. You could just get in there and just rip it all up. As long as you're not going way too deep. I only go about ½ an inch. The plant should do just fine. Don't worry about it. All right, so I've exposed about half of the pot. So now what I like to do is I take this soil and I move it out of the way. Then I come in here with some organic feed. It doesn't have to be specifically this one. Any organic slow release fertilizer will work just fine. I sprayed it out on the surface. And yeah, sometimes I use measuring cups, but that's if I'm making like a specific recipe or building a soil or something. But if I'm just feeding, I kind of eyeball it. So anyway, I come in here and I mix it up. And then I take my favorite compost in the world. This stuff right here from the coast of Maine. The reason why I like it so much is because it contains chitin. Chitin is really good for your plant. It's gonna build up its immunity towards diseases and things like that. Not only that, but it's a great source of food and nutrients. So anyway, I'm just gonna come in here and I'm gonna take a handful, throw it on top of there, mix it up with the organic feed. Then once I got that pretty much mixed up, I take another handful and I throw it on the pot all across the surface. And then I pat that down. And you don't have to worry about your cover crop because this stuff should grow right through it. And if it doesn't matter because it'll break down and feed your plant over time. Now, I do my apple trees and anything else that's in a bigger pot, I do it a little bit different. So let's go ahead and turn the camera over this way and let me show you guys how I deal with the apple trees. All right, so what makes the difference with the apple trees is really the volume of the pot. Because you're dealing with a larger amount of soil, it can handle different kinds of techniques. What do I mean by that? Well, specifically the cover crop. If you've seen on the grapevine, I removed this cover crop and I threw it in a bucket. Well, with the apple trees, I don't do that. I come in here and I do remove the cover crop. Not all of it, I do leave a little, but I do take away most of it. And then I'll come in here and tear it up. And you have to do this because if not, your nutrients are gonna have a really hard time penetrating through the soil. All right, so here's the difference. Instead of taking this stuff and throwing it in a bucket, because I have a larger volume in the pot, I take this cover crop and I just cut it up and throw it right back in the pot. What this is gonna do is gonna add all of that nutrition that the clover was able to mine during the winter time, and it's gonna return it right back to the soil. It's gonna be a longer form of feed because this stuff's not gonna break down overnight. It's gonna take a while before your plants actually get the benefits of it, but it's a really good thing to do because you wanna build your soil over time. All right, so once you have a good amount, you wanna spread it all over the surface. Then I wanna come in here with my organic feed, take a handful, spread it over the top, take another handful and spread it over the top, and then I mix that in. And then finally, we're gonna take a few handfuls of this compost here and just throw it on top of the pot. Then you come through here, spread it out nice and even. Then we take our irrigation and plop it right back in there and we're good to go. All right, as you can see, I just finished feeding everything and I went ahead and laid out these pots where I feel like they would do best. For example, I have these peppers here because the sun rises over there. Where's the sun? There's the sun. That's where it actually goes down. But the sun spends most of its time up there. So these guys are going to receive the most sunlight, and that's good because they're peppers. Then right behind them, I got tomatoes, which they're going to receive a lot of sunlight as well, but they might get a little bit of dabbled sunlight from the shade of these peppers. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a closer look here at this Cherokee purple tomato so I can show you guys how to transplant. All right, so right away, the first thing you're gonna notice is I left a lot of room in this pot, and that's because I want to backfill when I put my plant in there. Now, the first thing I like to do is go ahead and remove some of this pot here, and I know that it's gonna break apart over time, but the reason why I do it is because I want these roots to go ahead and start spreading throughout this soil. Clearly, you could tell that they're strong enough to bust right through the peat, but I like to give them a little bit of a helping hand. And once I got it more or less where I want it to be, I'm gonna dig a little hole, not much, because like I said, I want to backfill. Tomatoes, they can develop this thing called blossom end rot, and a really good way to prevent that is to go ahead and add some calcium. Now, inside of bone meal, there's plenty of calcium, so this is the amendment that I like to use right before I put my tomatoes in. I put that first, and then I go ahead and grab me a handful of some of this all-purpose fertilizer, throw a handful on top of that, and go ahead and mix it in. There we go. Then we just take our plant, put it on top of there, and then backfill with some soil. Now, the soil that I like to use is Fox Farms Ocean Forest because it already comes front loaded with a lot of nutrients. But if you don't have that, you can just take some compost and amend it with a little bit of peat moss, and you should be fine. Then I gently press down about where I want it, and you would think I'm good to go, right? But I just realized that the plant actually has a lot of room before the foliage begins. So because tomatoes are able to develop roots along the entire stem, I'm actually going to dig down just a little bit, put that thing in there, and go ahead and backfill. There we go. And now the additional roots that this plant is going to create is actually going to give it more stability. So it's going to be able to support all the weight from the fruit that it's going to make. All right, so that's one down, about 15 more to go. So give me 1 second and I'll pull you guys right back in here. As you can see, I went ahead and buried this potato a little bit deeper than what you would expect. And that's because I want to promote the creation of these things called tubers. That's what ends up making the potatoes later down the road. So typically what people will do is they will heal their potato as it's growing, which ultimately leads to higher yields. As soon as the sun began to set over the horizon, we finally finished setting everything up. Over here in the front, we didn't transplant anything new, but we did feed everybody. And if you take a look over there, we transplanted that canepa tree. And if I bring you guys a little closer, you can see the fig right here. Right next to it, we have the cherry tree. And right next to the cherry tree, we have an entire row of purple Cherokee tomatoes. Here's where we're going to be growing our only potato that we have. There's nothing next to the potato yet. And we have 3 pepper plants. But I need to stake that one because that one's falling over. Right over here next to the door, we have a few different kiwi plants. We have 2 right there, 2 over there, and 2 right here. So yeah, that's all we got going on with the porch garden for now. Next week we're gonna come in here and we're gonna transplant more things onto it, but I want to show you guys the end of the property back here. This is my favorite feature of this place. That's actually why I bought this boat. Now mind you, this is not my house. I am currently renting, but for now, since I'm staying here, I get to enjoy a little stream over there. Let me come around and show you guys a better look. Right underneath this tree, and there you have it, guys, the stream. If this was my own house, I would tap into this water and I would use it to irrigate my entire garden. But alright, I'll pull you guys right back in here in a week so we can transplant more things to the back porch garden and so we can check out the progress of what we already planted so far. Alright guys, it's officially been a week now since we transplanted everything. We're about to see if that transplant took hold, and I'm going to show you guys everything that I just added too. So if we start from the beginning of the porch, right here I added a few summer patty scallop squash plants. Right next to the summer patty squash, I planted this Lumina pumpkin, and granted I did put too many in, but I'm going to thin them out to 2. I just want to see which ones do best. Right next to that, we have these grapevines that have begun to trellis around the porch. Next to them, we have this apple tree that's doing really good. We just finished feeding them last week. Another grapevine, another apple tree, and right here I actually just planted in 2 purple eggplants. Right next to that we have the peaches, which are coming along really nicely. What I am gonna do is I'm gonna go through and see which branches cannot support all of this weight, and I'll thin them down to maybe 1 or 2 fruit per branch. Right next to the peaches, I just finished planting in some early chili jalapeno. Next to that, we got another grapevine that's starting to develop nicely. Over here, we have this canepa, which honestly is not doing so good. The new growth looks kind of distorted, a little twisted up, but I think it has a chance. As long as it doesn't die, it can always bounce back. Right next to that, we have this pink lady apple tree. It's doing phenomenal. And right next to that, we have these pecans, which I can't wait to see how they turn out. Moving right along to the fig, they've started changing color. I don't know what color they're supposed to be when they done, but I don't know. We'll find out. Next to that, we have that cherry tree, no development there, and a whole bunch of Cherokee purple tomatoes. So what I did is at the end, instead of having 4 Cherokee purples, I removed one and I added in this glacier tomato. I cut up the old Cherokee purple tomato right here so that way the roots can break down over time and I don't disturb the microbes, and I just planted right beside it. I took advantage of the fact that it had a lot of foliage and I used it to kind of cover up the soil. Moving right along to this potato here. If you remember last week, we healed this potato and it's already grown right through. It's doing really good too. I'm probably going to heal it up again next week, but once I get to a certain point on the pot, I can't really go anymore. Right next to that, we have another glacier tomato that I just put in this morning. And over here, we have a sweet banana pepper. Right next to that, I added another sweet banana pepper, but I did remove one of the other peppers that we had here. I just cut it up and threw it right here on top of the soil. So that's everything over here. And then if we look over here, we have the kiwi. I'm going to go ahead and throw up some stakes to give it somewhere to climb. And if we look across the way, we have some more kiwi, which has already begun to climb because I already gave it some stakes. And lastly, if we look up there, you're going to see some birds. There's a bird nest there. That's really cool. I like animals, so I'm just glad that they found a place that they could feel safe. Alright, so now we just need to go ahead and wait another week because I need to have more plants so I can put one in here. And I'm probably going to go ahead and remove one of these Cherokee purple tomatoes because I still have 3. So I'll probably remove one to make space for something else. But as you can see, things are developing rapidly. So just give me 1 week and I'll pull you guys right back in here. Alright, so it's been 2 weeks since that clip from a few seconds ago. So we're going to take it from the top and I'm going to show you guys the progress. Let's go. Alright, so first right here with the kiwi, I forgot to turn on this irrigation, so they haven't had water in a while and they have taken some damage. I see some leaves are starting to turn yellow, and on the tips of this plant here is actually shriveling up, but I caught it early enough to where the plant should be able to bounce back. Right across the way from it, we have the other kiwi. Surprisingly, this one's actually doing better from the drought, and if you look closely, you can actually see that we have some new growth going on too. This plant's really dirty and it goes through a lot of crap because this is actually right below where the bird nest was right there. Now the birds did get old and they finally fledged, so they're not in the nest anymore. I moved the cherry tree right here by the steps because it was getting smacked by the rain that was coming off the roof because there's no gutters on the back porch here. The summer patty squash is doing really good. I'm probably going to clip one of these plants. It's probably going to be this one here. But these two are doing really good. Look at the strength on that stem. Same thing with the Lumina pumpkin, except this one's going to be a little harder to pick which one I want to get rid of because they're all doing really good. The ultimate goal is to keep 2 vines per pot. As you can see, the grapevines are doing really good. I'm going to have to take this and tame them back, probably weave them through the wood. But if you look over here, look at that. We finally got some grape development. Each pot is a different vine. So if we take a look at this one, for example, you could tell that, yes, it's developing the grapes, but this one's a little smaller. Now, as far as the apple trees, I'm just letting them develop. But this one over here, I actually got these clips. And what I did is I started training these branches away from the tree because the branches were originally growing straight up. And I'm looking more for like an obtuse type of angle and going up in an angle instead of growing straight up throughout the tree because that's not good for airflow and stuff like that. And it's probably pretty obvious here. You can tell that one of these branches broke, unfortunately. So we're just going to remove that. And I'm going to try to root this thing. I'm going to put it in some sand and see if I can get some roots. The 2 eggplants are doing fine. This one over here is doing a whole lot better than his little cousin over there. And the peach tree is doing phenomenal. I'm going to go through there and thin them out today. I did notice a little problem though. We're starting to get bug activity getting up in the peaches. So not only am I going to have to remove this peach, but I'm going to have to figure out how to protect the peaches too. The early chili jalapeno is getting bigger. I can't wait to see how that one turns out. This last grapevine here is also starting to put on some fruit. And this canepa tree that I ordered from Puerto Rico is not doing good at all. It might die. This pink lady apple tree over here in the corner is doing so good, but I'm probably going to have to go through here and thin out the branches that are growing into each other. As you can see, it has a lot of foliage right now. No flowers yet, but I'm pretty sure the flowers are going to be coming in the next couple weeks. And for some reason, this pecan tree dropped all of its fruit. So I don't know what's up with that, but it's bare. All it has right now is just foliage. This fig tree here has definitely seen better days. That cherry tree that I relocated by the steps over there, it used to be over here. And as you can see, because of the backsplash, there's no gutter here. So the water was just smacking into the pot because I had it up against the wall. So I had to slide all these pots away from the wall. We got these 3 Cherokee purple tomatoes here. I'm going to remove one of the 3 and I'm going to put 2 different kinds of tomatoes right back there. And speaking of the tomatoes, if you look a little closer through the foliage, you can find we already started setting some fruit. Right over here in the corner, we have this glacier tomato. It hasn't started fruiting yet, but it did flower, so the fruits are coming soon. This potato here is ready to get buried again, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn it this way and bury this entire stem along the side of the pot. This little glacier tomato that we have on the corner here has actually started to put on fruit. Look at that. We're looking at the last few in front of the stairs now. These are all the peppers. And if we take a look at this sweet banana pepper, it's already started putting on fruit even though it's tiny. This is the same sweet banana pepper, but this one hasn't even started flowering yet. Now these 2 bell peppers that I overwintered are a whole different story. Look how big these freaking peppers are getting. This right here is the advantage of overwintering your peppers because they're already mature, so as soon as the conditions are right, they're going to start fruiting for you right away. And it started to put on some new growth really nicely too. Oh, and this one over here cannot be underestimated because as you can see, this one has peppers too. So yeah, that's how we're looking now in the back porch garden. As you can see, we have a lot going on. And what I'm going to go ahead and do now is go ahead and heal up those potatoes. And then we're going to go over here and pick one of these 3 tomatoes to get rid of. All right, let's go ahead and get our irrigation out of the way, our little plant tags. Now we just have to find a position that this potato plant can lay comfortably. Now you want to be gentle with it. You don't want to break anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the stem from the base and bend a little bit. 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 And I'm going to work my way up the stem. So instead of just having a hard 90-degree bend here, I'm going to make all of this bend. All right, we're looking pretty good now. So I'm going to go ahead and move some of this soil out of the way. Along the side of the pot as well. And now we can go ahead and bury this stem. And you know what? I actually have enough room where I can continue burying even further. Now I'm going to need to put some of the soil that I brought with me on top. That should be good. The potato's going to bust right through there in a few days. Alright, let's go ahead and water that sucker in now. Make sure we have our head on shower and give it a nice soft flow.
Yeah.
Alright, we can go ahead and put our irrigation back in there and then we can go ahead and move on to the tomato. Alright, so ultimately it was a really hard choice to make, but out of the 3 purple Cherokees, I actually decided to get rid of the one that has the big purple Cherokee tomato. And that's because these other 2 plants next to it actually have a better structure to them. They have different main stems, whereas this one here only has like 2 or 3. So yeah, let's go ahead and remove this stake and cut that sucker down. And don't worry guys, none of this stuff here is going to be wasted. Here in Fusion Grows, we like to take advantage of every little opportunity we can get. So we're actually going to take all of this foliage here and we're going to use it to cover the topsoil of each pot. Believe it or not, this is actually a blessing in disguise because all of this foliage that's going to be sitting on top of the soil is going to protect the soil from that harsh intensity of the sun, which in turn increases microbial activity. And now that it's getting hotter, we're getting deeper into the spring, closer to the summertime, this foliage is actually going to help trap in the moisture. So yeah, this right here is a perfect example of how an unfortunate situation like losing a plant can actually turn into a blessing. I'm not sure if it's picking up on the camera, but we have a little light rain today. Unfortunately, gardens are not on your schedule. They're on their own schedule. So rain, sleet, snow, thunderstorm, you got to get up in there. Some people just came out of the woods. See, there's the woods over there to the right. And that guy right there, he just came out of the woods. He's dragging something. And that's not my neighbor. Anyway, I'm going to finish up this foliage here. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to get your fruits on top of your pot because this is going to rot and decay, and it can actually bring potential problems that could pass on to your plants. So you want to take fruits and you want to put them directly in your compost pile, or in my case, feed it to the worms. All right, these right here are our last 2 pots that we're going to be planting out on the back porch garden for the season. As you can see, this right here is where I cut off the Cherokee Purple, and I am going to be leaving the rootstock in place. The reason why I do that is because a lot of your microbial activity has already attached itself to those roots, and because those microorganisms are already used to supplying the tomatoes with nutrients, they're going to have absolutely no problem hopping onto another tomato plant. Plus, over time, those roots are going to break down, and that's going to be feeding your new tomato. All right, so for our tomato replacements, we're actually going with the Red Pride Bush tomatoes. If you look here, we have one that actually looks in pretty good condition, and we have another one that doesn't look so great. It's a little lanky, and it has some pretty messed up foliage, but the new growth looks good, so I'm sure it's going to turn out just fine. All right, so because this tomato here is so lanky, we're going to go ahead and lay that thing down sideways so it can develop roots along its stem. Now this one over here looks great. However, I'm still going to go ahead and bury that stem because that's going to promote stability. The roots that the tomatoes develop along its stem, they don't really do a lot of nutrient searching, but they do provide a lot of stability. And if you get a lot of fruit, you want that plant to be able to hold all that weight. And voila, that sucker's ready to grow. Alright, so as a gardener, it's going to be pretty common for you to run into this kind of issue. And the way that you deal with this kind of problem is number 1, prevention, and number 2, protection. It's a little bit too late to do the prevention because something already crawled up in there. Okay, so instead of getting rid of the entire plant, I'm actually going to come over here to where the problem is. And I'm going to get as close as possible as I can to this little slimy stuff and cut that sucker right off. I'm going to throw this in the compost pile because whatever comes out of this is probably going to be a flying insect, a caterpillar or something. By the way, I don't know what this slimy stuff here is. So if you have any idea, leave a comment down below. I'm assuming it's some sort of protection for whatever's going to come crawling out of this thing. Alright guys, now that we removed the problem, we need to come in here and protect our fruit so we don't have this issue going forward into the season. And the best way that I found to do that is with some of these fruit mesh bags. These are breathable, so you're not going to have any issues with humidity or powdery mildew or anything like that. And they're extremely simple to use. All you have to do is just wrap it around your fruit, pull on these little drawstrings, and that's it. Alright, well, I'm just going to go through this tree and find every individual fruit that I want to keep and just throw a little bag around it. Well, as you just seen, I had to remove a lot of fruit, but that's okay because now we know that whatever fruit is left on this tree doesn't have any bugs in it, probably. Well, there you have it, guys. This is the back porch garden. We did quite a bit of work. We filled out the entire back porch. We netted a few fruit. We healed some potatoes, and I hope you learned a few things along the way. But my name is Fusion, and I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Fusion Grows. I hope I'll see you guys in the next one, and have a wonderful day.